So let's take a look at each one of these. Let's start first with search. Both Google and Bing do some great searching. I happen to prefer Bing for a few reasons, not the least of which they have these lovely pictures and you see fog floating along here, but Google Doodles are cool too. Let's suppose that I'm going to do a post on Christina Farley's upcoming book, Silvern, which is the successor to Gilded, and it's coming out in September. So I want to capture some images that I might use when I do a book review on this. So let's take a look at searching on Silvern and Christina. And in Bing, we'll see right away. First of all, I use another tool called Evernote to help me keep notes on things. In Google Chrome, the browser I'm using right now, it shows the Evernote results as well if I happen to post anything related to them. I'm not quite sure how homemade tortilla chips relates to Silvern and Christina Farley, but who knows. Now, if you look, we see Hypable, Goodreads, which, as you know, is a great place to get information about books that are upcoming. We see Christina Farley's own site. And then, as Bing tends to do, they'll have videos related to it. So maybe there is a book trailer that I might post as part of the review. And then typically there'll be images that'll come up as part of it. And sometimes that's enough. You can just go right here, really convenient, and grab the images that you want. For me, I'm going to go in a little bit more detail. So let's take a look at images. So one of the things I want to do is I'm going to try to grab something that's going to help me in dealing with something that's going to present a nice banner for the page. And it's probably going to have something related to the book on it. So since it's 960 by 260, that's really wide and thin. One of the nice things about Bing, right as it comes out, you're able to set what size you're going to go after. I'm going after something large because 960 is pretty big. And notice, by the way, right out of the box, it highlights what size these things are. And then I can say what type. Well, I'm going to leave that alone. I don't really care right now too much. But I could say I want it square, I want it wide, I want it tall. Well, I'm going wide most likely, and see if that can help. Okay, so far so good. And then I can look for things that are in the public domain or free to share and use, or free to share and use commercially, or so forth down the line. Typically that depends on some metadata related to the image itself that's telling it what that is, and in this case you're going to see nothing comes up that way. That's because not so much that you can't share them, there are some things obviously that are copyrighted, but because the metadata is not there. So that's one thing, by the way, and I'll talk about that towards the very end. You need to make sure that either you have permission to use the image or it is free to use. There are some things that I don't typically ask permission for, things like covers of books. They're available free in the public. I don't see that as an issue. But if I get something from DeviantArt, for example, I always contact those folks and get permission, and I'll walk through that process a little bit. So here we see this is a good example of something that's a little bit of a challenge, even though both Gilded and Silvern are great books, and I think Gilded did well. It's certainly not something that's on everybody's lips. In other words, these aren't things that are going to be super easy to find with a plethora of images that show out. So I'm going to have to make this work a little bit. How am I going to do that? Well, I think I've got an idea. I might use, this is a good wide image, but it's a little too big and it's not wide enough for what I really want to do with it. So I'm going to either have to have that kind of in the middle and change it, or I'm going to have to add something to it. What I think I'll do is I'll go back and say, well, since there's nothing really wide enough that really does this for me, let me go back to all. So I've got this image here. Oh, it tells me right up front, 736 by 1104. That's going to be a good candidate for me to be able to edit and be able to build into a banner. So let me save that, and here I'm going to save it. I've got a little screen cap. Let's just do that. I may use this one, probably not, but I'm going to go ahead and grab it for now just so I have it on hand, and then I might end up using this somewhere. So since it has both books and the author as well. And then I may come back to get some straight author shots or something of that nature, but typically a good place for that is actually right on the author's site. They'll often have a press section that allows you to get good high-res images for that. I've got those. Now what am I going to do? Well, before I go off and show the next stage, let's see what the same process looks like in Google. So let's take this same search see what happens with Google. Fairly similar. I get Goodreads, I get Amazon, I get her site again, and if I come down, I'll see, yeah, they give me some images as well. I don't think they really work much on getting videos, but you know, obviously you can do that. You can search by video. You can search by images. Now, if you search by images, it's just going to come up, and there's not a lot of control right out of the gate in terms of what's going to show up, but there actually are some things that Google brings to the table. If you look at search tools, now I can do things like I want it to be large. I want it to be medium. I can say I want it, you know, show me faces. So I have a little bit in terms of type here. I can do usage rights, and then I can ask to show sizes. And so now notice it now, just like Bing will show, once you set that, will show the pixel size. So you need to go over to remember to do show sizes. The other thing that's kind of nice is I can actually search not only by large, medium, I can search by something that's exact, larger than a certain size, or I can even do exact. Gee, does anybody have anything out there related to this that's 960 by 260? That's my banner size. Oh wait, there are a couple. They both happen to be mine up here. This was my Gilded banner when I did a review of Gilded, and so that came up because Christina Farley's name is associated with that post. This is the default banner for my WordPress blog site. That's going to show up right away as well. A couple quick words about these. This was a straight capture, and then I was able to crop to just the right level that I wanted, 960 by 260, from a picture of the front of a book that was not the typical cover. And this actually happens to be 3 different photographs that were taken by my daughter Darby, and I was able to edit together into a banner that kind of gives an old time look. But we see that other than that, I don't really have anything I can use right out of the box. So I'm going to have to go with the images I have and be able to edit those. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the big one, the tall one, in Snagit Editor and edit it there. And one of the things I love about Snagit, besides being able to do screen capture, which I'll show you in a minute, it allows a couple other things. Oops, it looks like I did not grab a big one. Notice one of the really nice things about Snagit is it tells you the pixel size right here. And that's too small for what I was looking for. So here's one that I grabbed earlier that really does the job. So let's take a look at this one. This is 736-1104. We saw that earlier. This is obviously way too big for what I want. What if I were to just take a sliver of the name? How does that do for our 960 by 260? Well, notice right here. Man, isn't that great? It gives it to us right here. This is 736 by 200. Well, I want this to be 260. Here's another nice feature about Snagit. You can start the capture at a certain level and then simply come in here, and when the arrows go up, simply move your capture size to be a little bit larger. And now 210. So we'll do a little bit here. We want to get to 260. So let's go right below that line. See, we can see exactly what we're doing here. And then we're going to come down until we hit 260. So there we are at 260. And so I'm going to just simply crop, file, save as, and let's call this Silvern cover banner. And this is going to be the banner for me. Now notice that this is not 960. So one of the things I can do in Snagit is to resize the canvas. And so let's make that 960 by 260. And then it's going to move the image that you have somewhere along there. And you can dictate, I want it on the right, I want it on the left. Okay, that's great. So now I have this, but I have this empty spot. I can leave it, or I have another idea. Let's go back to this image. And what about if we embedded the head of the tiger in that part? And so we can come in here and simply start grabbing. Okay, so right now we're at 260. Let's see, let's come down a little bit here and get that just at 260. Now notice This is 404, a little more than what I need for the site I'm going to copy it on, the image. But let's take a look at that. So it's the right height, but it's too much. But wait, one of the nice things about doing it that way is I can just let the other stuff go off the canvas and not worry about it. I don't have to size it just exactly right. I just size it until it matches the right spot. I can overlay if I want a little bit the other way. The sizing on the height is perfect if I put it in correctly. And now I've got a kind of cool image that's a banner. It may not be perfect, but it's certainly eye-grabbing, and that's the point. Let me save this as the silver and covering banner. Okay, so that's great. We're in good shape there. So that's an example of one of the things that you can do to get things right to the right size. We have handled search and being able to get to a relevant image. And we've looked at editing a couple of images together at just the right pixel size that's demanded by the site.